Hello, I'm Yulia Arum from STKIP Jombang. I am a graduate student from English Language Teaching Department of STKIP Jombang, Indonesia, which has research fields of interest in extensive reading. And welcome to my talks that is about the effect of online extensive reading program on Indonesian EFL senior secondary school students' writing performance. In the introduction part, I will show you about the background of the study. In EFL context particularly, learning to write fluently and expressively is the most difficult of the macro skills for all language users, and EFL learners sometimes face problems in writing because of their limited vocabulary and insufficient knowledge of grammatical structures. And reading-writing connection can be the alternative way to solve this. Many researchers asserted that writing competence stems from sustained reading. Comprehensive self-directed reading for pleasure in the target language will affect writing proficiency and improve the writing style, and those who read well, write well. Therefore, adding extensive reading program into the classroom can effectively improve the writing abilities of EFL learners, and a number of researchers have highlighted the role of extensive reading in language learning in general and writing skill and in particular. And here I will show you some previous studies, which first coming from extensive reading in global context, which is ER in general and ER and writing connection. First, coming from John and Day, they investigated the impact of ER on reading proficiency. The findings showed a higher effect was found in the adults than in the children and adolescent group. English as a foreign language settings showed a higher effect than English as a second language settings, and web-based stories had a higher effect than paper books. Finally, ER as a part of curriculum showed the highest mean effect among ER types. Second, from Al-Mansour and Al-Shuman in 2014, they studied the effect of extensive reading program on the writing performance of Saudi EFL university students. This research aims at investigating the effect on an extensive reading program on the writing performance of Saudi EFL university students. The researchers found that reading many different texts and doing many reading and writing activities helped the student in the experimental group healthy reading and writing habits. And the next coming from Marmelstein in 2015, studied about improving EFL learners' writing through enhanced extensive reading. The purpose of this research is to seek out methods of improving reading and writing for EFL learners. The result of the research supports the Crescent's finding that ER is consistently effective in overall language proficiency, and also indicates that writing can improve with the addition of an ER program. Then Al-Omrani in 2014 studied about integrating reading and into writing instruction in the EFL program at Saudi universities. This paper discussed some pedagogical concerns associated with reading-writing connection and provides some recommendation for successful reading-writing instruction. Extensive reading and using models, which are two models of reading for writing, can be combined as input in second language writing courses. Extensive reading can serve as an indirect model of reading for writing, while models can serve as direct model of reading for writing. And Park in 2016 studied about integrating reading and writing through extensive reading. This study explores whether an extensive reading ER approach can enhance second language writing performance in an English for academic purposes context. Regularly engaging in the integration of reading and writing through ER seems to have been a good practice for increasing both literacy in quantity and in quality. Last, as the students themselves recognize the value of ER and accompanying writing practices, they become more active engaged in ER, which was probably the most salient factor that resulted in the positive outcome of the study. So, in short, most of those previous studies show that ER can improve students' writing, while for extensive reading in the context of the study, which is ER in secondary school, the previous studies coming from Sun in 2020, the study focuses, This study focuses on a 2-year ER program to investigate 5 secondary EFL teachers and 8 students' perception of ER and its implementation in a Chinese secondary school. The finding of this study indicate that teachers' guidance, supervisions, and encouragement facilitate the implementation of ER in secondary schools. And for ER in local context, that is ER in Indonesia, first previous studies coming from AD in 2014, he investigated whether the extensive reading activity is effective in improving students' reading comprehension, achievement, and whether there is any interaction between the extensive reading and the students' reading motivation. He revealed the following findings. First, the students taught by the extensive reading activity showed higher scores than those taught by conventional way. Second, there is no interaction between students' motivation and extensive reading. Next, from Yulia in 2018, studied about revisiting the concept and principles pertaining to extensive reading. Her paper spells out an alternative framework to implement ER as part of the curriculum in Indonesian university context, whereby it stands as the main activity. It should be noted that the key element of successful ER program is motivation, and that the indicator of success may be derived from the high enjoyment students feel from reading. And from Hadianto in 2019, examined how the ER teachers and ER students in the study perceived the story writing project. The findings show that both the teachers and students have the same perceptions of the collaborative story writing project in an ER program. For the teachers, they believe that students' reading behavior has a significant influence on the quality of their writing. For the students, this collaborative story writing project was also exciting. The students also noticed that with this story as a product of an ER program, the student can see more clearly that ER improves their reading and writing skills. So, in other words, some research about ER in Indonesia are always conducted towards university students, and the focus is the effect of ER on students' reading ability, not on students' writing. In conclusion, ER program that implemented as an online program and out of the class, particularly in EFL senior secondary school students in Indonesia, is the gap among the previous studies. So the objective of the research is to investigate the effect of online extensive reading program on Indonesian EFL senior secondary school students' writing performance. But important to note, there are some definition of key terms in the current study. They are effect, which refers to a change of the significant difference of students' writing performance as the result of online ER program. It is shown by the significant difference between the mean score of the experimental and control group. And online extensive reading program, which means a program of extensive reading, which is implemented as an online program on a virtual class and out of the class as an additional activity and out of the curriculum. And also the Indonesian EFL senior secondary school students here means the 10th grade student from MAN 10 Jombang or Public Islamic General Senior Secondary School 10 Jombang who learn English as a foreign language, and they are categorized into adolescent students. And for students' writing performance refers to product of writing from students, which is in a kind of free context, which includes content, organization, vocabulary, mechanics, grammar as the instruments to get the students' writing scores. So the statement of the problem is there any statistically significant difference on Indonesian EFL senior secondary school students' writing performance between students who join online ER program and those who do not join online ER program? And here are the data about the method of the study, which independent variable is online extensive reading program. Dependent variable is Indonesian EFL senior secondary school students' writing performance. And the population of this study is 156 of the 10th grade student of MAN 10 Jombang. For the samples, the student from 10th grade MIPA 2 as the experimental group with the total student 22, and from the MIPA 3 as the control group, and the total student is 21. For the data collection procedure, the research conducted tryout test and then choosing the experimental and control group and then pretest for both experimental and control group, and then to treatment, and then post-test. But important to note, to know the preliminary condition of the group before being given treatment, to know the preliminary condition of the groups before being given treatment, a pretest was administered. The students' writing performance in the pretest were scored and analyzed by using independent sample t-tests to know whether their prior skills in writing were different. Based on the result of pretest analysis, the significant total value of the prior knowledge of writing performance is 0.168, greater than 0.05. Which indicates that there is no significant difference on the mean scores between the experimental group and control group. In this way, it can be concluded that the prior skills of writing in both groups are considered to be homogeneous. Thus, the difference in prior condition of the two groups which could interfere the result of the post-test does not exist. Then is about the treatment. The online ER program as the treatment of the study was delivered in 7 meetings, which were embedded with 1 day introduction, and within the 2 weeks of online ER program, it took 1 meeting of reporting activity in every 2 days reading. It means that the students in the experimental group received 12 days of online ER program. On the reporting day, the students in the experimental group reported to the researcher on what they have read in today's reading activity. And for the instrument, the researcher used tests, which are pre-test and post-test. The instrument of this study is the writing test. The tests of writing in this study are constructed for adolescent learners whose first language is not English. The study refers to writing a recount text, which was taught to the students in the semester when the research was conducted. Thus, the purpose of the test is to measure students' writing performance, which content, organization, vocabulary, and mechanics and grammar were scored in the area of writing the context. And regarding the intention of data analysis and to answer the research problems, in the first step, 2 statistical assumptions should be fulfilled. And the assumptions are concerned with normality and homogeneity. Here is the result of normality test. The p-value of the control group in Saarbrücken is 0.022, which is lower than the alpha value, while the p-value of experimental group in Saarbrücken is 0.128, which is greater than the alpha value, because 0.128 is greater than 0.05. Thus, it indicates that the data in experimental group was distributed normally, but the data distribution in control group is not normal. In conclusion, the assumption of normality in this research was not fulfilled. While from the homogeneity test, based on the information presented, the significant value of Levin statistic is 0.014, which is lower than the alpha value because 0.014 is less than 0.05, which indicates that the data was not homogeneous. It can be concluded that the assumption of homogeneity of the study was also not fulfilled. And the second step of data analysis was hypothesis testing. It was done by employing non-parametric Mann-Whitney U-test because the assumptions were not fulfilled. It shows from the table that the mean rank score for control group is 25.338, while the experimental group is 18.77. Thus, it can be interpreted that the mean rank of the control group is higher than the experimental group by difference 6.61. And the result of this test statistic shows the assumed significant total is 0.081. Then the assumed significant total was compared with the significant levels 0.05. It shows that the assumed significant total is higher than the significance level because 0.081 is greater than 0.05. Thus, the null hypothesis is accepted. Based on the finding that I mentioned, here is the discussion of this study. First, the finding of this study was not in line with the research finding of the previous studies, particularly with the studies conducted by Al-Mansur and Al-Somar in 2014, Mermelstein, and also Hedianto. When comparing the current study with their study, it appears that their study created an effect of the extensive reading activity to the students' writing. While this study showed that there is no effect of online extensive reading program on students' writing. And second, this current study, which is conducted to adolescent students, is in line with previous study that conducted by John and Day in 2016, because they have been claimed that the effect of ER are bigger in adults compared to the children or adolescent group. So in conclusion, it is showed on the result of the post-test, which was interpreted by SPSS 24, that the assumed significant total of men with NEU tasks, which is 0.081, was higher than 0.05. Thus, the null hypothesis was accepted. Besides, the result of men with NEU task ranks showed that the experimental group score is lower than the control group, because 18.77 is less than 25.38. To conclude, based on the result of the hypothesis test in the men with knee, and since the effect refers to the significant difference between the mean score of the experimental group and the control group, the researcher avers that there is no effect of online extensive reading program on Indonesian EFL senior secondary school students' writing performance. Okay, so that's all for my talks, and thank you so much for your attention.